Welcome to the Pressure Beast podcast.
If you can't handle the pressure, stay out of the vessel.
Do you got a topic you want to talk about?
Talk about how Trump's going to get put up on war crimes if he fucking bombs Iran.
Yeah, but it's getting into
That'll be war crimes.
time sensitive.
8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, that's insane if he does that, man. That is destroying an entire country's.
You're taking back the Stone Age. You're taking down all the power, all the bridges. That means there's no food, there's no water delivery, there's no medical help, there's no hospitals, there's no nothing. That is a crime against humanity.
Absolutely, 100%.
For the intention of, because they don't want to surrender to your deal.
Right.
Yeah. But at what point is war, right? So then you got the concept of what is war?
Well, yeah,
I mean, what we did to Japan, I mean, that's the same damn thing. What did World War II? I mean, you're bombing population. I mean, carpet bombing fucking cities.
right.
You know what I mean? So, but we persecuted the Jews. I'm no, sorry, not Jews. The Germans in Nuremberg for the atrocities of killing all these people intentionally.
Right.
Trump's not trying to kill nobody. He's trying to kill the infrastructure. But
But it's going to kill people. I mean, even America,
to me, it's a bad move. I don't think he will do it.
I think that's why we're sending troops over there. I think they're going to go physically take over the power plant, that $10 billion power plant or whatever.
What that would do it for. I mean, I don't know what that would gain us to take over their power plants other than responsibility.
Then we can shut it off. And at that point, instead of destroying it, saying, hey, until you come to the table, then we'll turn your power back on. Right? It's not, hey, we're going to destroy this plant and you're going to be in the Stone Age for the next 20 years because we're not going to let you fucking rebuild. But, our own government had a thing. So electromagnetic pulses and shit like that, that's a huge concern. And the power grid being hardened against it. But
welcome back.
Yeah. They had a whole congressional hearing with experts and everything else. And they said, if America, the entirety of America, got hit by an EMP, whether a solar flare or a man-made EMP nuclear blast in space, that within the first year, 90% of Americans would die because of the lack of power, lack of food, lack of water, and everything else.
Hospital medicine.
Which is what we're saying that we're going to do to Iran. Other than the fact that there are other countries that they can go to for
bail out to. But I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he's going to do it. I think he might take out a power plant. He might take out a few bridges. But to take all of them out, obviously the bridges, it's silly. I mean, there's probably a lot of bridges, but the major ones.
What does that do? It's not bridges they're moving military on. It's civilian bridges.
It's right, and that to me is what hurts, is because that would dramatically hurt the people of Iran, which are good people,
which are on our side
leadership, right? And that's why I don't think he's going to do it. I could see him taking out a power plant. I don't see him taking out, I don't know how many they have. I don't see him taking out all the power plants. I do believe, I mean, he's, to me, one of the master 4D chess players in the world.
Right.
And I bet you he figures it out, comes out of it okay. Because I don't think he's going to bomb it.
Maybe in the long run, but it's going to weaken the American.
It'll weaken his authority and stance, because everyone's going to be like, that's
this
not
is
a bad mood.
Lose-lose situation unless Iran just gives up, which
I read earlier
they're so
that
broken up in
they're putting human chains around the power plants. So basically shoving civilians in there. So if you bomb that, you're killing civilians. Well, it's a human shield. Well, whose fault is that? That's Iran's. At that point,
the human shield bullshit. I don't like. They hide military shit in kids' schools and everything else. I don't. That's the most disgraceful thing a human can do, is use another innocent person as a shield.
I did hear and it's been floated around that if we do go bomb the shit out of their infrastructure. And then Trump even alluded to it in one of his speeches, that maybe we can go help rebuild it. Now, some of the negotiation talks coming out of Iran were like, we want reparations for all the shit you broke, right? You broke all our shit. Now you come pay for it. You know what I mean? And then Trump's like, well, we can go help rebuild, right? What does that do? That shoves American companies up in there
right,
to help rebuild this. What does that do for American economy, man? That's going to light our economy off. But I don't know if that'll be here by then.
You're turning an entire country against you at that point.
Well, that country would. Well, the people are still happy that we're there,
right? Until
as long as we
cut
don't
off their power and electricity and water and everything else, and make it to where they can't travel, they can't do anything.
I understand the issues with the strait. With we don't want our warships in that strait.
No,
because that's a sitting duck.
Yeah.
So how do we get warships through there, or how do we get tankers through there?
You know, it's surprising me that we can't defend against anything coming to the strait, because it's got to be long range.
No, it's on the coast.
I thought we blew all that up.
There's still drones and small attack boats and stuff
drones
like
are
that.
the problem, man. Drones are
so they get small attack boats with bombs in them. They just run right up to them and boom, and then they rocket launchers. And
we
shit.
can defend against small attack boats. That doesn't concern me. It's the drones that are the issue there.
Well, that's the problem is we can't defend against small attack boats.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, you can't, dude. With drones, shit, dude, we're taking out high speed boats on the coast or coming out of Venezuela for
but
drug running.
If you think about it, man, those things are on a run for a long time. We're able to identify them. We can lock on them. We can get the drone over. You're talking hours and hours and hours.
Securing an airspace, man.
We're talking about
that comes into that water gets blown the fuck out. Like there's,
yeah.
I mean, I have no doubt in my mind we can defend against anything on the water.
The problem is, the moment a ship goes through there and we have to shoot down someone else because it's attacking it, the insurance is never. The only reason they're not going through right now is because of Lloyd's London Insurance is canceled all the policies. Right. So if there's any hesitation that a ship goes through there and it has to be defended, they're not going to be insured. Right. So if they're not insured, they're not going through it. So the strait has got to be like polished clean with a bow on top to say, everyone come in, water's warm. Otherwise, the insurance isn't going to kick on unless we back the insurance for these ships, which God,
he already tried.
I don't know how we'd be able to do that. I'd be blowing shit up just to blow it up. Give me somebody.
But
make it an insurance claim, you know?
Man, I just have a hard time believing that Iran is still that militarily intact.
I think it's one of the greatest chess moves they got. And if you look at war from as a chess game, right? They are set up strategically to defend, not attack in that sense, right? So what have they got? They're holding the world hostage. They, by basically one announcement that they said the strait's closed.
Right.
And threat of small boats, threat of mines, threat of this shit. That's it. It's the insurance that pulled the. They pulled the insurance. That's what stopped
ships.
Yeah, they did hit a couple ships.
Yeah, they did hit a couple ships, but
that's show and tell.
Yeah,
right.
But
I'm just saying
they let a couple of their Chinese counterpart.
Well, they're letting the Russian and Chinese oils go through, which is helping relieve the pressure on the price of oil. But we're going to be in a world of newness and pile of shit if this thing doesn't figure itself out pretty quick.
Dude,
I mean, for all the men and women in the oil and gas field, I mean, it's going to be a payday, but it's going to be, no good for the general public.
No, it's not going to be good for the general public.
I think it was Germany or one of the European countries came out and said they're going to tax the oil and gas companies for making windfall profits. So anyone making a windfall profit off the spike of the oil, they're going to go tax them to take away their profits.
Of course they are. Of course they are, man. The government, no government in the world can let anyone else have
goodness.
anything
you got
without
a piece of candy? Yeah. I need to take your candy.
There's no
right.
Dude, taxes in the government are the worst thing ever made.
I saw something the other day that was very interesting to me, and I never thought about it. Okay, let's just say I go to the grocery store and I buy a candy bar for $1. Mm-hmm. Okay, now the store's got that money. So I pay tax. Mm-hmm. Okay, now they have my dollar. Now it's their dollar, right? And then they pay an employee with that dollar. That dollar is taxed again. Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's So every time that money transfers, right, it's getting taxed. So that $1 can raise up to, like $2,000 worth of tax in a given period of time, So basically you multiply that by every dollar on it's just like, oh my God, that $1 creates so much tax. And I never thought about it in that process, a step of,
to take it one step
think
further.
about it personally, like, oh, I'm a text,
That's if you were to use a dollar bill. If you use a credit card, not only is it being taxed, the credit card company gets 2% or whatever the case. And that $1 through 3 transactions is completely in the hands of the government and the credit card transaction company.
Yeah.
Right. So if you use cash, then only taxes are coming out of it. It can still circulate and create wealth through taxes for the government. But the second you use a credit card, all of that gets transferred to the credit card companies. So if every time, if you spend $20, right? If you give me $20 in cash and I count that on my taxes as revenue,
right,
then I have to pay taxes on that $20.
right.
Right. Now, I go pay whatever I have left, $18 to someone else in cash. They got to pay taxes on that $18, and it slowly dwindles in. Right. So maybe you get 15 transactions out of that cash before the government has taxed all of it. Right.
Yeah, I see that point of view.
If you're using a credit card company or credit card, you pay me $20. Now the government takes their $2 and the credit card company takes $2. So now the 15 transactions to delineate that cash to nothing
to where it reduces the base amount.
8
overtimes.
8 transactions, right?
Right.
Before the government has and the credit card companies have the full amount of that $20. So
I see what you're saying. It's just a different way to look at it.
yeah, they're just one. I wish we could go back to cash, and
I don't like cash.
the control of the credit card companies is. Look at China, man. They've gone completely cashless. Japan, all those, and they can literally control everything. You can't have a garage sale without paying taxes on it, right? You can't have. Hell, they're going to a credit score system of what is it? The public.
Yeah, social score,
right? So if you're not socially acceptable to the rest of society, they can cut off every bit of money that you have because you can't use cash to buy anything. So you're completely beholden to the government's idea of what you should be in order to use the money that you have.
I understand that concept, and in a communist country, I get it. I get you. That's not a good thing. It's one of those things, man. The genie's out of the bottle. I mean, I prefer a card. I remember the commercials back when I was a teenager of where they were trying to get you to use the check card or the debit card or the credit card, right? And it was just this machine that would be working, and then you walk up there with cash, and it's like, the whole machine would stop, and everyone would be like, look at you. So, like, my wife keeps me on a leash because of the damn credit card. You know what I mean? And she's like, what did you? Oh, look at that.
Credit cards are easy.
If I got
and
cash in my pocket, that son of a bitch is free money. Oh, man, it's all mine. Do whatever I want with it.
I get it, man, but
go buy me a pack of gum.
But we're slowly losing society, man.
You know what? It's just, I mean, shit, the penny's gone away. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was going to be a big deal, but that's not a big deal anymore.
Because there's still a lot in circulation. What surprised me is people didn't adjust to. I think other countries have it right. The price you see on the price tag is with the tax included, right? If it says it's going to cost $5.92, you give them $5.92. Jet scrambling.
America.
But that's what you pay, right? That the tax is included in that. Here, the price that you see on the price tag doesn't include tax, and they add that at the end.
Which I think that's what it should be.
No, I think it should be what you see is what you pay.
How much tax do we pay in gasoline? You don't know.
I don't know.
Because the price you see includes the tax.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no pain. It's just that's what I pay.
Okay.
We don't know how much they tax us.
Yeah.
Right now,
Doesn't matter. So you got to pay it anyway.
Right, but no, there's a revolt. Right, there's pushback from society. Right, so the price of gas just goes up. Well, because we don't know what the tax is. That's why California's
We
gas
know what the
is,
tax is on everything else, and there's no revolt.
No, but there's the governments, especially the state, right, counties, are very reluctant to raise that tax because you were to go buy this, and now you buy for $50 and it's 8.25%, and now it's 9%. So they're very reluctant to raise the sales tax because it is easily felt, and people recognize that because I'm paying this and I bought it for this and I'm paying this.
No,
and
you're
there's
talking
that
the same
difference.
thing. If you say, hey, last week I bought this, it was $5, and this week I bought it at $6, it's the same.
If they raise the price, if they raise the tax on gasoline, you just assume the price of gas went up because of future contracts of oil and gas. You have no idea that they actually raised the tax on that. That's why California's in the way it is because they tax the shit out of that gasoline, and they're paying, a couple bucks more a gallon. I'm just saying I would prefer to factor in. I can factor in what, $100 I'm paying,
But the
108
tax is different every single place you go.
Well, per county.
Every county is different.
So the alternative is...
You don't know what taxes you're paying. You don't know
got some
anything
in-laws
else.
in Pennsylvania, and they don't have sales tax. Or they didn't. They might now, but they did not have sales tax.
Right.
It was the trippiest damn thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was like $5.50. I go to the cash register, it was $5.50. I'm like, what?
That
Where's
was
the
nice,
tax?
right?
But they tax the shit out of your income. Now you got a state income tax.
But shit, I lived in Kansas. We had state income tax and the highest sales tax in
In
the
fact,
goddamn
my
state.
mother-in-law, when she was alive, had to pay tax because she didn't have a job.
Yeah, I get it, man.
But that's crazy. I'm all for the sales tax. In fact, in Texas, Florida, no income tax. Love it.
Yeah. And then
Just
the way that Florida went with no property tax and the way Texas is wanting to go with no property tax, I 100% agree with.
did they have to? They had to have raised their sales tax then.
I don't know how they're paying for it, honestly.
It just doesn't seem.
I don't know how they're paying it
feasibly
because
right.
they don't have income tax and they don't have property tax. So their sales tax might be
it's all
stupid high, which is fine because
They had to
you're
offset
taxed
to real
on the-
estate
on the consumption.
purchase or car registration. They've got to offset that.
that they offset somehow, but they offset it towards the consumption. So if you don't go out and buy a bunch of shit and all that, you're not paying as much taxes. But when you buy your house, it should be your house, right? Nothing else is taxed year after year after year for ownership. If you go buy
Absolutely
a chair, imagine if, other than businesses, I know business is different, but as a personal consumer, as a person, if you had to go buy that chair and then every year you had to pay taxes on that chair, that's some bullshit, man.
That's some bullshit. Texas
But
finally got it right.
That's what we have to do with houses. And in some states like Kansas, you got to do it with cars.
No, I completely disagree with that. And at the minimum, even if we can't get away with a property tax for everybody, at least once you hit like 60, no more property tax. At least some cutoff to where, at some point in your life, right? You know, once you're outside of your earning potential, and you're moved into the consumption potential of your lifestyle, I would even agree with that. I'd like for everyone to not have property tax.
Right.
But
I'm all for a consumption tax. Like
you
get taxed based on what you buy and how much you buy.
who would really get hurt if there was no property tax?
Schools.
Renters, because that landlord's still going to charge.
It's not going to hurt the renters.
It would be the same. They're not going to see a reduction in their rent.
Yeah, but that rent is relative
to the price of purchase.
to the price. Not necessarily. To the home value, the neighborhood value.
Right.
Right. The just because property taxes are no longer a thing. No, the rent prices aren't going to go down.
Property tax is what helps influence the housing value, right? The buying and selling of houses is what creates the housing value, right? So that's where they're getting the appraisal tax. But when everyone's house is appraised every year higher, and every year that house is appraised higher by the state, right? that means when you go to sell, all of a sudden my house, I bought it for $100,000 and now I'm going to sell it for $250,000, right? That's because over time the county has appraised that house higher and higher and higher and higher. Otherwise, there's no mechanism to say your house is now appraised other than true sales.
Supply and demand.
Which, obviously that's how they balance it out. But I don't know. I'm just saying.
Supply and demand. I don't think
But the second half of the argument,
raising your taxes every year.
Argument, they could, they could go throw some Doge up in all these taxable entities.
No, yeah.
Clean all that fraud out. Look at fucking Michigan. But the reality is that there does have to be a tax revenue to pay for public services. And that's where the balance breaks, right?
That's where you legalize all the sins. And like we were talking about before, tax the fuck out of casinos and drugs and alcohol. And then everything else is tax-free. Right. The stuff you buy, consumer products, should be taxed. Houses, when you buy it, should be taxed, not every year.
I think we should tax churches. If they break over the property that they're at, they start buying other businesses and they start buying land and all that, tax the shit out of them. If it's just a community church in a neighborhood and they're serving, the Lord's work, that's fine. But you've got some of these mega churches, dude, that they own thousands of acres and they own radio stations and they own TV stations, they own that and they own this, and all of that revenue is under the umbrella of a church, and then so it's
there
not
should
taxed.
be a revenue cut off, period.
So
even if they don't go buy other businesses and buildings and shit like that, there should be a revenue cut off for a nonprofit organization.
Look at Scientology; they own fucking half of Clearwater, Florida.
Right.
I don't think they pay tax.
I'm sure they're a nonprofit.
I can call my buddy Tom. Ask him.
Give him Thomas McPother a call.
Who?
His name's like Thomas McPother Cruz or something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just call him Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Cruz, yeah.
Not to be confused with Ted.
No, they don't get along.
No,
they
probably don't.
Kind of like me and Bills. I don't.
You don't like Bills.
I have a hard time with Bills. Except for you, Bill. I enjoy you.
That Bill, not that Bill.
No, that Bill over there is an ass.
That Bill's a dick.
He's an asshole.
But anyways, we're going to head out. But all of y'all have a nice day, except for you, Bill. The rest of y'all, have a good time. We'll see you in a while.
Peace out.